Hey there, cool cats, and welcome to another far-out episode of B-Movie Enema, the series. I'm totally your B-Movie proctologist, Jeff Arbuckle, and with me as always is the groovy bird, Nurse Disembody. Say hi to all our people, my crunchy flower child.
Please don't talk like that for this whole episode.
Fair enough, I've exhausted my knowledge of the hippie dictionary anyway.
Good. Hi everyone, I'm Nurse Disembody.
Indeed you are. Oh, I found another term I could call you. Yep, you sure are, banana boobs.
I really think you should reconsider every choice you've ever made in your life.
Too late. I already did that this morning. Anyway, this week's episode features a hell of a cast. One of the main stars is none other than three-time Oscar winner Jack Nicholson. Now, most of the time, when someone hosts a Jack Nicholson movie, people assume it's going to be something like Roger Corman-produced movies, like The Terror or Little Shop of Horrors. But this is B-Movie Enema, goddammit. I don't show those types of movies. Nope. This week, we're showing Psych-Out from 1968. Now, this movie came just before Nicholson would hit it big with a string of hugely important new Hollywood movies like Easy Rider, Five Easy Pieces, Carnal Knowledge, The King of Marvin Gardens, and The Last Detail. From there, he really hit it big with Chinatown and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, both of which are still movies that are beloved to this day. And by the way, I don't just watch shitty movies. I'm sorry, B-Movie Poop Shoot, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, but as I was saying, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is this movie host's pick for the finest movie ever made. And I'm not even going to punctuate that with adding, in my humble opinion, like a know-it-all jerkfuck in an online comment section. No, it's the best movie ever made. This is objectively true.
I don't think that's how that works.
Too bad, I have spoken. I could talk for hours about Nicholson. I could tell you all about the massively important roles he's had in movies, both huge and small. I could tell you about how he is still very much my Joker in the Batman movie that defined my life in more ways than one. The aforementioned One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is yet another touchstone film that evolves in its meaning to me as I grow older and more mature. And then, for years, I had a tradition that on basically the same weekend before going back to school each year, I'd watch The Shining. Why did that tradition exist? I don't know. My brain is probably broken, but it played on TV one year the day before I started a new school year, and it was just such a pleasant and gratifying watch. I just kept doing the same thing for at least 3 or 4 more years after that.
I know I'm gonna regret this, but didn't you mention Jack Nicholson a few weeks back when you were talking about another movie?
Goddamn right I did. Jack Nicholson was friends with Bob Rafelson, which, for a short period of time, made him friends with the Monkees. When they were all stoned out of their gourds one day, they conceived the idea for the movie Head, the lone film starring the Monkees. Now, this was a liberating experience in one regard for the band, as they were trying to come to terms with always being considered second-rate because of their origin. But for more on that, go watch our episode on The Night of the Strangler. But when it comes to Jack Nicholson, he was making friends and making movies, and even sometimes making movies with friends. He helped put the script together with the band and Rafelson, and even appeared in a blink and you'll miss him moment of the movie. Now, to be honest, over the years, there has been a tad bit of drama around who actually should have gotten the credit for writing and so forth, but I'm not here to pick sides, nor do I really even have enough information to suss out all that beeswax. What I can say, though, is that Psych-Out was directed by Richard Rush. Rush didn't make too many movies for having a nearly 35-year career. He made 2 movies in the late 60s with Nicholson, Psych-Out and 1967's Hell's Angels on Wheels. He later made Freebie and the Bean, starring James Caan and Alan Arkin. But in 1980, he got nominated for Best Director and for Best Screenplay for The Stuntman. The story about that movie is kind of wild. It basically took 9 years from green light to screen for that movie to get into production, and it ultimately went through the ringer because Rush wanted the movie to be a drama, a comedy, an action movie, and a social commentary. Now, due to the troubles and not really sure how to market the movie, it didn't really ever play to a wide audience. The popularity it did get from critics and Academy voters, and the public, when they finally did get a chance to see it, led to the movie star Peter O'Toole saying that the movie wasn't released, it escaped. Now, up until his death just earlier this year, Rush didn't make many more movies after The Stuntman. In fact, Rush didn't make another movie in the 80s. His next film was Air America with Mel Gibson and Robert Downey Jr. He stopped making movies after 1994's The Color of Night, which is, indeed, a really bad movie. Oh, sorry, Poop Shoot. I know you really like that movie, and I get it. I just don't like it. I mean, if you want, you can shit all over my favorite movie if you want. No, actually, wait. No, don't. Oh, God. You're shitting all over the place. It's all over my copy of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Oh, God. Oh, fuck. It's getting everywhere.
Oh, my God.
How did it get into my shoes?
We'll be right back after the first part of Psych-Out.
Oh, God. Oh, what a mess. All right, so now that I have that all cleaned up, let's talk more about the movie. Now, Psych-Out follows the story of Jenny Davis, played by Susan Strasberg. She's come to San Francisco's fabled Haight-Ashbury district, and she's come looking for her brother Steve. What we don't immediately realize is that she's deaf. We think she's just kind of too wrapped up in the barefoot weirdness of the world's largest and probably smelliest hippie commune on the planet. She can speak well, at least. She can read lips, and she can mostly get along.
You were squirming a bunch in these early scenes, weren't you?
Yes.
Hippies are unsettling to you, aren't they?
Yes.
Care to elaborate?
Not really.
Come on, Jeff.
Fine. Look, I get the idea of living free and just kind of doing what you do and being more open to hearing out someone's experiences and not judging them for where they come from and if they have that mindset and blah, blah, blah. However, there's not a moment in my life where I could look at the idea of living from one friend's pad to another or one alley to another or under one tree to the next and think, hey, you know what? That's a life that I want any part of.
But it really is kind of a mindset of living untethered to anything or anyone.
Yeah, but it's more than that. Look, I'm all for everyone being well taken care of. After all, I didn't ask to be born, so it would be nice to have a safety net if I lost the job or the poop chute is finally clear of all the B-movie bullshit clogged up there. But hippies, at least what we typically see in movies, kind of force others to take care of them. I can't really explain it. I don't have enough time to put all the words into this that would be necessary to give my distaste for this kind of way of life a leg to stand on. I just don't like it. They're a bunch of grinning assholes with dirty feet, dirty clothes, some of which have swastikas on them, and they basically live in parks, not out of necessity, out of some sort of bullshit creed.
You don't like camping, do you?
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ, no. I hate being outside. I hate spiders. I hate bugs crawling into my shorts. I hate not having a reliable place to brush my teeth and get a shower.
Whoa, okay, calm down. Let's talk about the movie instead, all right?
Yes, okay. So Jenny is played by Susan Strasberg, and she's the daughter of Lee and Paula Strasberg. Lee was a well-known drama coach at the Actors Studio. Paula was an actress. Now, Susan got work on stage in the early 50s. She then hit it big as the title character in The Diary of Anne Frank. She then spent a good portion of the 60s doing the usual, the Big Valley Bonanza and so forth. In the 70s, she continued doing lots of popular shows like Night Gallery, McCloud, and The Rockford Files. Eventually, she ended up in a couple of notable movies, Roller Coaster in 1977, and The Manitou in 1978. The former was covered at the B-Movie Enema website in 2017. The latter was one of the episodes of Monster Mondays that some goofus does at a website called Film Seizure. In the 80s, she was in The Delta Force, covered at both B-Movie Enema and Film Seizure. Meanwhile, Nicholson's playing Stoney. Like, no shit, right? He's a member of a band, and at first, He's kind of a dick to Jenny's deafness, but they end up sympathizing with her and help her stay clear of the cops. Turns out that she is a runaway. They plan to help her find her brother Steve, who gave her a cryptic message about God being alive and living in a sugar cube and has gone missing.
You have to at least like the clothes changing montage.
Alright, look, clothes changing montages are always welcome.
I like the outfit she ended up choosing.
Yeah, Susan Strasberg and Jack Nicholson are really good in this movie. I mean, she's very cute, but also seemingly strong-willed to stand up to people who she thinks mean to do her harm or overstep boundaries with her disability. Jack Nicholson is just always great. I cannot deny that there's a nice earnestness to this movie. It's not the type of exploitation film that is necessarily setting out to make these hippies look dangerous. But it does show that there are some bad things that can happen if you can't handle your shit.
Come on, you wouldn't hang out with Jack Nicholson's band?
Let's not get too crazy here. Of course I would hang out with Jack Nicholson, and he seems to be the least hippie of all the hippies in this movie, but let's not assume that while I do find some nice elements to this group of characters, I want to do any hanging out with hippies and try to figure out a way to talk them about deeper concepts of the universe and circular talk and mind-bogglingly fakey philosophical terms. Now, come on. While I have settled into this movie and am now acclimated to the hippie of it all, I am a lot less mad at the stuff going on in the movie or the people.
Maybe we should just get back to the movie then.
Yeah, I think so. Stoney and Jenny are getting a little closer, and things are about to get much cozier between the two as we open up this next segment. Join us back here in a little bit after this next section of Psych-Out. Let it be known that when you trip on LSD, you start seeing things as if you are at some far-out San Francisco club, or you're looking through a kaleidoscope and body-painted naked girls dance to cheap versions of Jimi Hendrix songs.
It's what I see every time I trip balls.
Well, of course, this is how drugs work.
Right now you look like Eve in the Garden of Eden.
I was just about to say, you look like a giant apple that needs a bite taken out of it.
This is no longer funny.
Yeah, that was kind of disturbing, wasn't it? Anyway, we have two other important names to talk about in this movie. The first is Bruce Dern. Now, Dern was part of the whole counterculture thing with the likes of Nicholson, Peter Fonda, and Dennis Hopper. In fact, Fonda, Hopper, Dern, and Strasberg were all in The Trip, which was written by Nicholson and directed by Roger Corman the year before Psych-Out. Dern is still going strong at over 60 years on TV and in movies. He was twice nominated for Oscars, once for his supporting role in Coming Home, which was one of the really very first movies to deal with the horrors of coming back from the Vietnam War and reintegrating into normal life. Then he got nominated for his leading role in Nebraska. He's been in the last 3 Quentin Tarantino films, and of course, he's also Laura Dern's father. Her mother was Diane Ladd, and Ladd and Dern were married for about 9 years. Dern is Steve in this movie, which is Jenny's brother, who we'll see in the third act. Now, he's searching for God or something. Apparently, he's had a bit of a bad trip that's led him on this path to find something far more spiritual. He's gone off his rocker and is living in a dump, literally the city dump. He's going by the moniker The Seeker. Dave, played by Dean Stockwell, who we'll talk about in just a moment, is a former member of Stoney's band, and he likes to dress in Native American clothing and proselytize about, hippie shit or something.
I like how they solved the mystery of where the Seeker is.
Yeah, that is clever. Jenny received this weird-ass postcard from Steve that said, Jess says God is alive and well in a sugar cube. And Stoney and his band kind of joke a little bit about the Jess says part, but it turns out that where Steve is hanging out these days is in a car in the junkyard under a sign that once said Jesus saves, but is now missing the U and the V. Jess says, indeed. The bit about the sugar cube is painted on the side of his luxurious 2-door apartment.
But it's kind of a dead end. The car's been abandoned.
Yeah, now there were some thugs who don't like the Seeker and his preachy ways.
They're really bad guys.
Yeah, they threaten to rape Jenny and a fight breaks out. They are able to escape the bad situation thanks to the easygoing band member Elwood beating the absolute shit out of the bad guys.
He thought he was a knight, and then he says he was a frog or something.
Yeah, it's pretty trippy. Now, Dave, a former member of Stoney's band, as I mentioned previously, was played by Dean Stockwell. Stockwell has been in a ton of stuff. He retired in 2015 after suffering and recovering from a stroke, but he goes back to the mid-40s. The list of directors he's worked with in film has names like Elia Kazan, David Lynch, William Friedkin, Francis Ford Coppola, Robert Altman, and Dennis Hopper, who he worked with in Lynch's Blue Velvet. Most everyone is going to know him for his amazing performance as Jack Whittier in The Werewolf of Washington. I'm pulling your dick. That movie sucks. He's best known as Admiral Al Calavici in Quantum Leap. While he basically made his way into every notable TV show, Al is just really what everyone my age and a little younger know him best as playing. He has amazing chemistry with Scott Bakula's Dr. Sam Beckett.
He had some pretty good insight on Stoney and Jenny, too.
Yeah, he left Stoney's band because he is a purist or something for the music and the message. He felt Stoney was chasing fame too much. He also kind of opens the lid on the fact that Stoney likes his women one night at a time and only once per customer. He sticks some knives in deep with his dressing down of Stoney's way of life.
What do you think of that fake funeral for the one guy?
I hated it.
I figured.
Yeah. Now, see, this is what I was getting at. I mean, why would you throw a fake funeral for yourself?
To hear people say nice things about you?
Yes, but, I mean, here's the rub. You are asking people to say nice things about you. You are the center of this freakout, and fucking self-centered as all the fuck out. It's narcissistic and weird, man. I mean, sure, there are people who are spiritual, like the Seeker. There are truth speakers, like Dave. But then it seems like as though there are just a whole bunch of guys who want you to make them rich and pay for their bohemian lifestyle by way of you buying their records or you coming to say nice things and make out with the chick from the Monkees movie while you play dead in the coffin. It's weird, man. And it doesn't make you free, dudes. It just makes you an asshole.
All right, Jeff's clearly starting to get upset again. Let's get back to the movie and we'll talk some more after the conclusion of Psych-Out.
Well, see, and that's the other thing. If you're gonna do a thing for a hippie, give him a bar of soap, some clean clothes, and a pair of fucking socks. And that was the thrilling conclusion to Psych-Out. Dave again takes Stoney to task over how he seeks fame and money while ignoring Jenny. Then Jenny and Stoney get into a fight and she downs a big old drink laced with STP.
The motor oil?
No, the other STP.
Stone Temple Pilots?
God, I wish. This movie could really have used some Interstate Love Song or Lady Picture Show. No, STP is another hallucinogenic drug like LSD, but was often the cause of some really bad trips. Its popularity faded relatively quickly because it was quite dangerous, and if not synthesized properly, it could really fuck someone up. It stood for serenity, tranquility, and peace. It was a slow-acting trip, so if you were used to LSD's faster effects, it led to a lot of less patient people to redose, which would then be real fucking bad because at that point you're overdosed. The actual name most people knew the drug as was DOM, or D-O-M, but the people who were buying it on the streets only knew it as STP, so it created real bad problems at first when you had to go to the hospital to get treated for bad trips and overdoses because you couldn't tell a doctor that someone took DOM because you didn't know it by that name and STP hadn't been widely known for a little bit.
It seems really shitty that Dave didn't warn her about taking that much of the drug.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Stoney was kind of a dick to her, though, too. We do also understand Jenny and Steve's connection. I guess their mom was a real jerk or something. She was mean and a tough disciplinarian. Steve left to get away from her after their mother took and destroyed Jenny's toys and it caused her to lose her hearing or something. He told a really creepy story about the experience.
Yeah, it was really weird and gross. It looked like she was spitting out a spider or something.
Yeah, that was some sort of a representation of ridding herself of all the badness that their mother caused or something, I don't know. It was maybe the one scene that could belong to a horror movie. But the dose of STP in Jenny's drink nearly gets her killed, but kills Dave instead. Stoney is able to save Jenny, and they seem like they're going to be staying together or some such shit.
When Dave died, he said he hoped that was going to be a good trip, too.
I'm okay if it wasn't.
Ouch.
I mean, he did basically offer Jenny a really bad drug that he should have known better to ask if she could handle it. I'm okay if his trip sucks.
You really liked it when Jenny got frustrated when no one did the dishes or did anything in the hippie house, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I was like, preach it, sister. These fools just dance and play music and talk about bullshit and play grab ass. No one cleaned up the place or did dishes or anything.
The movie did have some pretty good psychedelic music.
Yeah, it did. Two bands in particular that contributed heavily to this movie appear here. The first band who actually appeared in a scene to play a song during the batshit fake funeral were the Seeds. They were not a band that I'm all that familiar with, to be honest with you. But they had albums that ranged from 1966 into the 2000s. But a lot of their later stuff were compilations or reissues with unreleased tracks, etc. The other band is one that a lot of people know, the Strawberry Alarm Clock. Their first single was by far their biggest hit, Incense and Peppermints. That is the quintessential hippie song. It's on so many compilation albums for psychedelic rock songs. They also contribute a few more songs to the soundtrack of this movie. But aside from doing a version of the song Good Morning Starshine, they hadn't done too much more that I recognized. But the huge hit that was Incense and Peppermints is enough to make me immediately say, oh yeah, that's the Strawberry Alarm Clock. The band did reunite a few times over the next 30 years after their Good Morning Starshine album came out to not much fanfare. They were among the many artists who had a ton of their original material destroyed in a 2008 fire at Universal Studios. That's probably why they don't really quite have the number of reissues and unreleased songs out there to release like other bands of the era do. Well, I mean, even the Seeds had stuff they can reissue. So,
Psych-Out.
Yep.
Did the Seeker die?
I'm pretty sure.
Jenny's freakout scene was kind of cool.
Yeah, I liked that while she was tripping pretty hard, she thought she was seeing balls of flame attacking and flying at her, but it was really just headlights from cars on the Golden Gate Bridge. That was clever and cool. This really isn't a bad movie at all. In fact, it's quite good, and one that I'd be glad to watch again soon. I don't care much for hippies or their lifestyle because I'm old and crotchety, but this is, in fact, a very well-made movie. It's easy to see Richard Rush's talent for directing movies. The performances are good too. Bruce Dern, the guy who the whole movie is about in terms of trying to find him, he's this really neat, mysterious religious dude. Nicholson is fantastic as Stoney, and it comes down to a pissing contest between him and Dave. Dave is no better than Stoney too, despite how he presents himself. Of course, the central character experiencing everything with us is Strasberg's Jenny. She's fantastic too, as this cute and fairly determined young woman. This movie definitely has its qualities, and one thing that I didn't mention previously is that this movie is produced by Dick Clark.
Of New Year's Rockin' Eve fame?
The very same. Of course, Clark had been the host of the long-running American Bandstand program, even by the time that this movie was being made. Hell, that show ran until the late 80s, if I'm not mistaken. I suspect that Clark was not as stuffy or as straight-laced as he seemed on the show and such. He probably had a pretty solid finger on the pulse of American youth. Seeing how this movie does seem to want to say something about drugs and what's good, what's not, what's responsible, and who might not be taking responsibility into consideration, I think it does make at least a little bit of sense when you see Dick Clark is involved. He definitely brings that extra quality in the form of showing youths in their element. Also, he had the credentials of understanding youth culture as well. And speaking of qualities and credentials, tell the people where they can get the B-Movie Enemas.
You can find all of Jeff's writings at www.bmovieenema.com. He posts new reviews every Friday morning, and you can follow the blog itself by clicking to follow it through WordPress, as well as following the B-Movie Enema pages on Facebook and Twitter. New episodes of B-Movie Enema series can be found on the B-Movie Enema YouTube channel. Subscribe to catch up when new episodes drop and see clips that Jeff uses in his weekly articles. If you have a Roku, add the free channels for OtherWorlds TV and check out all the wonderfully oddball and nearly forgotten movies there. B-Movie Enema the series can be seen on OtherWorlds alongside all the other hosts that play there on the weekend.
All right, thank you. Well, I think it's time for us to finish this up. Hey, say, what's in this?
All the good stuff. It'll make you see God, man.
Will it take me away from this place so I don't have to talk about hippies anymore?
Yeah, it'll take away all your pain, man.
Oh, thank God. Okay, in this nightmare magic juice. Ah.